from New Orleans where you need your pistol every day. I ain't gotta stuff out what I done, just check my resume.
It's an honor to kick off this video discussing my all-time favorite Hot Boy. From his very first album, True Story, all his works with Cash Money, and even his projects on his own label, Chopper City Records. My boy BG is just too nice on the mic, and is definitely one of the rawest MCs from Louisiana. I don't know if everybody else feels the same way, but I honestly don't care, because the name of this channel is Gully Boy, not everyone else's opinion. But with that being said, let's get on with the diss track at hand. In order to truly break down this beef, we have to go back to the very beginning. Back in the early 90s, young BG was really feeling the effects of the hood as his father was murdered. Not knowing how he would cope, the big OG Birdman would come and encourage BG to come to the studio as he was a pretty good rapper. Birdman and his brother Slim were also CEOs of their very own label Cash Money Records, with booming local talents such as UNLV, Miss T, Pimp Daddy, Kilo G, and many more. But in 1995, the label was trailing on thin ice as artists would soon leave the label, some killed and others getting locked up. This meant that BG and Manny Fresh had to step up and make some bangers, and that they most certainly did, as BG's second studio album, Chopper City, would go on to sell 200,000 copies independently. The success of this album would then lead to Manny Fresh having Juvenile tagging along, which then led to everyone coming up with an idea to start a group. After this, Birdman then gathered Lil Wayne and Turk, which led to the Hot Boys stepping on the scene. With the rap skills of each MC and the production capabilities of Manny Fresh, Cash Money Records would go on to be a worldwide phenomenon.
The Hot Boys, the Hot Boys, the niggas is the Hot Boys, the Hot Boys, them niggas is the Hot Boys.
But problems would quickly ensue as the beginning of Birdman's shady business tactics would come to light. BG would become very suspicious during the Cash Money Rough Rider tour, as the tour grossed over $14 million and Birdman pocketed 165 G's every night for 60 days. BG ultimately received $300,000 from the tour, making him highly upset. During the same year this happened, BG would then release his final album with Cash Money and part ways as there would be more money issues. After his departure from Cash Money, BG would go on to create his own label Chopper City, with his distributor being Koch Records. He would then release his very first album on his label in 2003 called Living Legend, and as soon as this album begins, BG takes no time dissing Birdman and Cash Money on the intro track called F You.
They say baby nigga, Lil Wayne too, thought I was through, but I'm back nigga.
Once he disses Wayne and Birdman, he then brings up Birdman's past transgressions of him being shady with the label's earnings. It's kinda crazy that this track started to highlight Birdman's shady business tactics, as he would go on to do Juvenile, Turk, and Lil Wayne the same way. I also must mention that this isn't the only time BG dissed Birdman on this album, so I guess I'm gonna have to save that one for another video. All in all, BG, in my opinion, was the best artist out of Cash Money, and this short intro diss track is amazing.
It's all gravy nigga, you ain't paid me nigga, thought you played me nigga, done me a favor nigga. Well, I'm a
20 plus years in the game, I'm a OG. Long Beach from the Genesis, shout to OT. The car's a retired drug dealer, that's the no key. Who get the bag, split the word home in half, ho? Me, yeah, giving youngsters game forevermore.
Now, I already know plenty of hip-hop heads know of King Crooked through his affiliation with Eminem and the supergroup Slaughterhouse, but earlier in his career, he would work along Suge Knight as an official member of Death Row Records. What led to Crooked working with Suge was him being dropped from his previous label, Virgin Records. Also during this time, Death Row lost 3 prominent members, which helped get the label to unseen heights. Those members were Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac, who was tragically murdered. While everyone who still remained at Death Row was figuring out their next move, Dash Dillinger decided to start his own label, in which King Crooked was supposed to get 20% of. Crooked denied this offer, as he ultimately decided to continue working with Suge at Death Row Records. This also led to Dash having hostility towards Crooked and his former bandmate Corrupt, because they decided to stay with Suge. Years later, Crooked would work on various projects with Death Row, and he even recorded 2 albums under the label. But sadly, they would become unreleased projects as Death Row Records started to crumble because Suge was in and out of jail. But before all that, in 2002, Snoop Dogg will release his 6th studio album called Paid the Cost to Be the Boss. On this album, he will release a diss track called Pimp Slapped, aimed primarily at Suge Knight. He also takes jabs at Corrupt and other members of Death Row Records. The main reason Snoop released this track was to shut everyone up that constantly says that he's afraid of Suge Knight. But there was a line in this song that got the attention of the lyrical titan King Crooked.
You need to just start rhyming, cause you the biggest star on your label, and them other niggas just crumbs off my table.
Crooked Eye would then respond to Snoop Dogg on a vicious diss track called Slapback. On this track, Crooked Eye goes completely in on Snoop Dogg by calling him a snitch, a fake gangster, and completely irrelevant.
You ain't popular for cocking your steel. You're popular for going to the coppers and squeal. Snoop, you're not real. Pimp slap me. Hold on, wait, stop. That's as funny as you rocking a tank top. Who the fuck pumped you up to show your dope fiend shape? Somebody get this nigga a steak and a protein shake.
He also doesn't leave out Das.
Then smash that dilly. Smack your ass silly with the Mac Millie. Fracture your sacroiliac. Now is that really what you want, huh? Get your back broken.
Now the reason why this track is so obscure is because it was never officially released. The track was supposed to appear on Crooked Eye's album Say Hi to the Bad Guy, which was scheduled to come out in 2003. But as I stated before, Death Row would soon fall apart, leading to a lot of unreleased work. Honestly, if this diss track along with Crooked's album would have dropped at the time, I honestly believe it would have helped Death Row in a major way. But if you've never heard this one, please go check it out immediately, as Crooked Eye goes completely in on Snoop while defending his label at the same time.
Yeah, you getting pimped by the Bishop Don. Heard you getting butt fucked by his magic wand. And you've been in your own artist over all the while. That's why they call your label Doggy Style.
The whack bits are tactics, giving them black kicks, bumping up the mic with funky rock licks, tricks. I'll be ripping them like focus on the funky. Don't be running away like a punk beat, rockin', dropping the fuck of the manifestation that'll be dope. Stop the point to be a white nope.
Let's now travel to Chicago and uncover one of the most underrated rap beefs. It all started when Naughty by Nature felt that Chicago MCs were biting their rap style, which was known as tongue twisting. One Chicago rapper that they had a gripe with was a young MC named Tongue Twister, as we know him today as Just Twister. In 1993, Naughty by Nature were on the top of their game, releasing their 3rd studio album 1993, which led to them composing a timeless classic track called Hip Hop Parade.
Hip Hop Parade. Oh, hey, oh, hey.
But also on this album, they would share their frustration with the Chicago MCs biting their style. This comes from a track called Sleeping on Jersey, which features Queen Latifah. Once the track begins, Naughty wastes no time throwing a shot at Twister.
I put a few flows in cargo so you could tongue twist your ass back to Chicago.
When word got around that Naughty was dissing Twista in Chicago, he would quickly respond to Naughty by Nature with a diss track called Suicide. On this track, Twista goes completely ham on Naughty by Nature by flat out saying F them.
Fuck naughty, I'm in that hate your nature, ready to break ya, state ya, claim and narrate ya, faker, take you the degrees deeper.
He then goes on to completely dismantle Naughty with a sick flow and hard instrumental. The highlight for me though is when Twista holds it down for his city by saying it's suicide when anyone tries to diss Chicago. This beef also led to Naughty not being able to perform in Chicago for quite some time, as Twista wasn't the only one on their head. Another thing that's interesting about Twista's flow on this track is that it's slowed down to prove that he doesn't have to rap super fast, as he can come with dope lyrics either way. Twista's versatility also proved that he doesn't have to take rap styles from anyone.
Me biting something from you and you can't top me, better yet stop me or drop me, your technique is sloppy, check my flow autopsy.
In conclusion, this is just an all-around killer diss track, and it's crazy that this track and beef aren't brought up in discussions. Well, I mean, this is why the greatest rap channel on YouTube exists, to provide you guys with gems you may or may not heard of. But one more awesome thing about this beef is that it will eventually get squashed, leading to Naughty by Nature, Twista, and other Chicago acts laughing about it in the future.